What's going on, guys? Fantasy hockey expert here. Today we're going to be going over your week 2 preview along with your week 1 recap of fantasy hockey. Happy Thanksgiving Sunday to our Canadian subscribers, and if you're not Canadian, I know you'll be having Thanksgiving in a few weeks in early November. So with that being said, let's get into the video. There's a ton to recap from last night. One of the craziest things I noticed is that two of last year's Hobey Baker finalists actually scored their first career goals. One being Ryan Leonard, who also plays today, and another being Zeev Buium of the Minnesota Wild, who actually had a power play goal and a power play assist. So pretty nasty from that game there. We had a couple barn burners. Minnesota Columbus was a high scoring one. We had Winnipeg, a high scoring one where Scheifele had a couple goals yesterday. We had a hat trick from Kirill Marchenko and just tons and tons of goals. Zero shutouts last night, just something interesting to note. And with that being said, a couple of unimpressive performances as well. One, I would say, going to Austin Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs. If you guys agree, let me know. If you don't, let me know. But a bit of a sloppy performance there when it came to the penalty kill. And I think what was the eventual game winner. So did see some really nice play from some kind of depth guys that you're going to want to watch in fantasy for this upcoming week. One of those guys being Max Domi, who had a pretty nice goal, was buzzing all night. So definitely a name to mention at the start of this video. So let's get into the first thing I want to mention today. That is my Boston Bruins being 3-0. So a couple of low-scoring games, nothing too pretty, but just a lot of gritty play from the Bruins. That blue line looks healthy, and that blue line looks great. It looks like playoff hockey, looks like playoff defense to me. You got McAvoy healthy, Lindholm healthy, Zadorov healthy. Not guys you're all going to look at in fantasy, but just something to mention. Again, I won't talk about my Bruins every video, but I do think that 3-0 start is something to mention. I won't brag too much about beating the Sabres, but with that being said, we're going to get into our cup winners from last year in the Florida Panthers. I am missing Brad Marchand on the Bruins, so I will point out his hot start. He's buzzing. No Kachuk, no Barkov, but no problem for the Florida Panthers. So if you are looking at options on the Panthers, Lundell is a great option, especially if you're in face-off leagues. Marchand's always a great choice. I had him in my draft, I think second last pick. I went Marchand and then Laine. So Laine is out of here, but Marchand's still on the squad. So Marchand's a great choice. Lundell's a great choice. Seth Jones and Aaron Ekblad look to be contributing. So if you have Ekblad or Jones on your wire, you might want to look at them, especially if they have a 4-game week coming up, which I think they have 3 this week and 4 the upcoming week. We're going to get into schedules a bit today too. Next up, guys, Sergei Bobrovsky. Before I kind of move on to another team, he has 5 goals against in 3 games. He looks great. I don't think he ever gets talked about in that Hellebuck-Vasi conversation, but he really should be because, again, even though his team's not the best in the league, I know they're a strong team, but you're missing Barkov and Kachuk, and he's still playing elite. So got to mention that. Next up here, guys, we're looking at the New York Rangers, who I mentioned a few days ago. If you didn't see that video, please check it out. But the Rangers were the one team in the league who played 4 times this week. They actually have their 4th game coming up tonight, Sunday night against the Capitals. So if you need to win your week, if you have a few ads left in your week, feel free to add guys like Will Cooley, maybe even a Martin Fairbury on the Capitals. Jonathan Quick also plays against Charlie Lindgren. So those are 2 goalies who shouldn't really be rostered, but for today, you might want to add them if you're in a points league especially. Next up, Ryan Leonard of the Capitals, a guy who I said was a top 5 pick of the week, finally scored his first goal. I want to say it took him around 10 games in total because he did play a few last year, but big kudos goes out to Ryan Leonard. He's a stud. He's got a great shot. He was confident there. He ripped the puck from kind of the little high slot there. He's going to be a big part of the Caps' future, guys. So if you're in a keeper league, dynasty league, someone to keep an eye on. I wish he was dual eligible, but it's too bad he's not. Again, bright future for the guy. If you own him, he's worth something. He's not worth dropping, but just be careful because, again, he's not going to be deployed on that first power play all the time, and he's also not going to get top line minutes all the time and stealing those from a guy like Tom Wilson, who might be more valuable. Next up, guys, a crazy game from last night filled with young studs. A bit of a topic of this video, like always, but this new era of hockey, It's just being dominated by these young guys. So Beckett Seneca scored his second career goal last night. Bit of a gritty one in front of the net. As Kevin Bieksa said, it's an easy league for these guys now, on pace for 82 goals. So another guy, Cutter Gauthier, 2 goals last night, was sitting on my bench. Pretty frustrating there, but I didn't see why I should start him over some of the guys playing last night. Just because it was a full slate, right? We had 16 games, no shutouts, tons of goals. Another guy on my bench who I think I mentioned was Kirill Marchenko with 3 goals. But getting back to the Sharks-Ducks game, guys, I think the only takeaway I like from this is that Lucas Dostal was not playing. So don't look at that game and be like, oh man, the Ducks, they're scary. They're not a good team. It was their backup in net. I don't even know who played, but I'm going to assume it was Florida's backup from last year, who I'm forgetting. I think maybe Vanacek. I could be wrong, but I want to say it was Vanacek. I don't even know if he's on the Ducks. But anyways, moving on. Macklin Celebrini and Connor Bedard are off to great starts this year. Bedsy's got 2 goals in 3 games, I believe. And Macklin Celebrini, I think he had 3 apples last night. So a guy who doesn't just score goals, but he's pretty responsible. Celebrini actually had a lot of face-off wins last night. I noticed that. So a 7-6 game is exactly what you want for fantasy purposes offensively. It just is a reminder, though, to not touch those goalies on weak teams like Askarov or, again, backup guys like that. I don't think Dostal's going to look like that. I think Dostal's going to be the guy who puts up a ton of saves, kind of keeps your team in it. So he's a bit of a guy who doesn't apply to that in my eyes. Next up, we have Dylan Guenther. Guys, a guy who was plus 800 to score 40 goals. He has 2 goals in 2 games. And Utah with their first win. Karel Vejmelka played great. Sergachev had a bit of an impact on that final goal too. They're a team to watch closely, guys. Very closely. Tons of young talent. But Guenther, man, he's the guy. He's the guy who loves to shoot the puck. And he's the guy they're going to pass the puck to on the power play. So if you don't have Guenther, it might be a little late now, but he is a guy who's going to produce goals. If your goals are worth more than assists, that's something relevant. And I did trade him in one of my leagues, but I still own him in my keeper league. So pretty happy about that after getting trash talk for keeping Dylan Guenther. Next up, a bit of, although I already mentioned Kirill Marchenko, I'm going to go into someone who has the lead in goals. First to 5 goals, it's Pavel Dorofeyev, or Pavel Skorofeyev, if you want to call him that. I'm really impressed with, you should be impressed with 5 goals from Dorofeyev. That being said, I have to be negative and say he is a sell-high candidate. If you can trade Pavel Dorofeyev, you need to trade him because there is no way he's going to be putting up these numbers all year. It's just the way it is. He might be a guy who hits 35 or 40, but if you can trade him for a guy who's proven to be a 60, 70, 80-point guy, I don't see why you wouldn't do it. Some guys you can target are guys who had a bit of a rough first week. Maybe you look at a guy like an Adam Fantilli. Maybe you look at a guy like a Logan Cooley, another young guy, but a guy who should have higher potential than Pavel Dorofeyev. So part of that being said is just because of the offense Vegas has, right? They have a lot of depth. They have Tomas Hertl. They have other young guys in Ivan Barbashev. He's not even that young anymore, but you do have other talent up front, and I just don't know if Dorofeyev's a lock on that top power play all season. Again, you have Marner, who's new there. You have a lot of talent, and it's just one of those things where if a guy's hot, people should want to trade for him. He's probably a top 5 rank after this week, so definitely interested to see where he's at. But he's a sell high. I won't go into too many other sell highs, but I will go into a bit of a last point here, guys, before we wrap things up. I know you guys probably have some plans for Thanksgiving, and so do I. The top stars in the league are doing their thing. Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, a little bit of Austin Matthews there with the help of Nylander and Riley. But it's just important to note that as these players are starting off their season, you cannot be fooled by hot starts, and you can't be fooled by, call it, underperforming stars. So with that being said, if a guy hasn't scored yet or hasn't had any assists or just has 0 points to start the year, see that as a buy low opportunity. If you own those players, it's going to be really tough, but you need to hold on to them because you're not going to get anything for them. So good example could be a guy like Kirill Kaprizov. So if he goes pointless next week, you need to see that as a chance to just hold on to him or buy him low. He had a great first week, but you don't know if that's going to continue, right? And so it was a very high scoring week in the NHL. Keep an eye on the guys who have played 4 times or 3 times compared to the guys who have only played twice. And don't be fooled by rank as you head into week 2. With that being said, guys, next week I'm going to point out your 3 teams you need to target for Monday and Tuesday. There's no real teams that you need to avoid since every team plays three times this week. But the guys you want to look at are from Nashville, Toronto, and Tampa. Again, I call it the Steven Stamkos trio there, even though Stammer hasn't played for the Leafs. He's from Toronto, so you should know what I'm saying there. These teams play back-to-backs Monday, Tuesday. Get your extra starts, guys. Drop them on Wednesday if you need. Max Domi is a perfect example. Jonathan Marchessault is another. Anthony Cirelli's another. Jonas Johansson's another backup for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He should have a good matchup in front of him on Monday or Tuesday. And those are just a few. Feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or TikTok directly. I'll be answering your questions, guys. And we're going to be doing a lot of more collaboration with companies such as Dauber Hockey, along with Fantrax and ESPN Fantasy. So always looking to expand. Feel free to shoot me a text or leave a comment on this video to see what you guys are looking for. So going to look to keep growing the page, and happy Thanksgiving once again to all of our Canadian followers, and we'll see you guys this week.